Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first installment of Boston Magazine's Power Talks, presented by Ethic, a wealth bank. My name is Chris Vogel, and I'm the editor of Boston Magazine. We're very happy to be bringing you a series of discussions with some of the state's most influential leaders. Now, I think it's safe to say that none of us thought we'd ever see a day when we had to stay at home for as long as we have. But the truth is, it's necessary. And we hope this virtual series will provide you all with important answers to unknowns and offer a sense of community from the local leaders we'll be interviewing. Today, I have the wonderful pleasure of speaking with Lieutenant Governor Karyn Polito about the Massachusetts reopening plan and her role as the chair of the Reopening Advisory Board. I know we're all eager to begin the process of reopening and rebuilding our communities. That's for darn sure. I hope everybody watching today is safe and well and enjoys the conversation. We'll plan to talk for about 30 minutes and then take viewer questions for about 10 minutes. We'll wrap up at about 12:45. Before we begin, here's a message from Mark White, CEO of Ethic, a wealth bank. Ethic is Power Talks, and it's a pleasure to welcome Mark to say a few words.
Thank you, Chris. Ethical Wealth Bank is delighted to partner with Boston Magazine to host this very important series of Power Talks. What struck me most when I read your article was who you ranked number one. All of us. It's true. Times like these dictate the need for all of us to come together to weather these very difficult times. There is no one person more important or more powerful than all of us working together. We are a community of strong and reasonably minded people, and in our lifetime, we have navigated other unthinkable challenges with composure and compassion, and we have powered our way to the other side of those challenges. What I find interesting about this particular challenge is the depth and the breadth of the front line. In many past crises, the front line has always included our nurses, our doctors, our fire departments, and our police departments. This time, you can include our teachers, our parents who spent time educating our children remotely. Also, all the people that went to work every day in grocery stores and pharmacies to supply and stock the shelves and to make sure that the medicines that people needed were available. And you can also add the thousands and thousands of people across this country who spent time in parking lots volunteering to pass out food to those people in most need. I am the CEO of Ethic, a wealth bank. We started our bank earlier this year. And the reason we did so was because my colleagues and I felt very strongly that it was time for a different type of financial institution, one that prioritizes people over financials. Our goal and our purpose is to really understand the challenges that our clients face, what keeps them up at night. And never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that we would be undertaking the start of an institution in the middle of a pandemic. But here we are. Our doors are open to help those in need. If you need any kind of guidance or financial help in any way, whether you are a client or not, please let us know. We are here to help you. I stand here today in the lobby of 125 High Street, in the middle of the financial district in downtown Boston. This is a big building, almost 1 million square feet. On a normal day, you have thousands of people coming in and out of this building on their way to various offices, for meetings, to meet colleagues, to discuss issues. Today, however, it's very different. I am in this lobby and am virtually alone. However, that is about to change, which is why I look forward to this conversation, a conversation between Chris Vogel and our Lieutenant Governor, Karyn Polito. She has worked tirelessly, working with Michael Keneally, who is the Secretary of Housing and Economic Development, They have spent hours and hours creating a multi-phased staging to ramp up our economy to get us back to a thriving environment. Thank you for joining us today. And let's listen in now.
One, go.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks again to Ethic for being such a terrific partner with us on this series. Now, when it comes to the state strategy for reopening and rebuilding, we couldn't think of anybody better to talk to than, of course, our Lieutenant Governor, Karyn Polito, who is leading the Reopening Advisory Board and helping chart a course towards recovery in Massachusetts. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. It's really great to have a moment just to kind of sit and take stock of where we're at. And for those who are listening, to do the same. These are really, really tough times. And we wake up every day so focused on this one effort. And we were just talking about that before the call. It's really extraordinary, and I'm glad to get into it for a few minutes with all of you today.
Well, again, we really sincerely appreciate your time, knowing how busy you are. And we're going to try to cover as much ground as we can today. And we'll certainly touch on a number of different topics. But we'd be remiss not to start with the reopening, of course. Just over a week ago, your administration released a report detailing the advisory board's four-phase strategy to safely and responsibly reopen businesses across the state. And your estimations so far, how is phase one going? And what are you using as a measuring stick for success?
Well, let me just start with saying, how did we get to reopen? And it was an extraordinary effort and continues to be, from the public health part of this, the whole command center that you've heard about with Mary Lou Sutters at the head of that, and the whole enormity of the public health system, the frontline workers, the extraordinary nurses and docs out there, the field staff that set up those remote hospitals for surge capacity, then all of the emergency responders. It seems like a while ago that we were just sort of in battle with figuring out how to equip them with PPE. Everyone knows what PPE is now, personal protective equipment. And because of all of their efforts, and because of the ability for us to close down and really let people come home and hunker down, which is an extraordinary effort in itself for people to get accustomed to that, we got to a point where the data that we measure every single day allowed us to make a decision that it is time for Massachusetts to begin to phase in workplaces and activities throughout the Commonwealth. And so Reopen came with an enormous effort, and we just start by saying thank you. So May 18th was a day that I'll always remember, because it was that day that marked the reopening of certain things in Massachusetts. But before May 18th, we were able to start a process that included a reopening board of amazing people, actually 17-member board. And these 17 members, 3 public health officials, hospital leader, as well as specialists, and our Commissioner of Public Health, Monica Burrell, 3 municipal officials, because reopening, we need to have the municipal leaders. They're literally on the front line as well. And then 11 people from the business community, business owners, heads of industry sectors, and geographic diversity, lead the effort with both me and Secretary Keneally. We were both honored to be able to co-chair this at the request of the governor, to process and develop a plan that we released on May 18th to start the reopening. And I could talk about that further if you'd like to, but the reopening, so we're about 9 days in, and I'm knocking on wood because so far the metrics continue to trend down. If you look at the positive COVID-19 numbers are trending down, hospitalizations trending down. We track those and release those every day at 4 o'clock. And we look at that dashboard to tell us, how things are going. On the day one, the essential businesses continued, but not in the same way. They had to change their workplaces in order to incorporate the safety features, so to meet the mandatory safety standards that we set out. And we allowed construction and manufacturing across the state to open, including those safety features to make sure that their own workforce is safe, as well as the customers that they do business with feel safe in their place. And we also just yesterday allowed for personal services. I got a lot of feedback around people getting their haircuts, for one, getting their cars washed, and getting their pets groomed. Being one of the owners of a wonderful pet, those was really important. But that behind every one of those is a business. It was really important to get those started, as well as opening some offices and allowing for curbside retail. But I lay those out because it's just a set of things to begin to phase in activities and allow for things like beaches and parks to open and give people more of an outlet as they enjoy the better weather outside. And we have a phased in approach leading up to the next set of businesses that will be allowed to open if they choose to through phase 2, phase 3, and then the new normal. So right now we measure it from the data, from the feedback that we're getting from businesses. And just a big shout out to the community and to the people of our Commonwealth who are doing the right things day to day to allow us to progress. So those data metrics that we look at, those just aren't static numbers. Those numbers come with the constant effort from people in the public to practice the social guidance that we have issued. You know, wear your face covering when you leave your home, practice social distancing with 6 feet, and then think about the hygiene. How many times are you washing your hands and using hand sanitizer? My hands feel like sandpaper now. And really understanding how important it is that that face covering is really a safety feature, not only for yourself, but for others. And I've witnessed, and the governor has witnessed, an extraordinary amount of discipline among people in the public for taking that seriously, and that it is necessary in order for us to continue to progress into phase 2 to phase 3 and beyond.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned some of the reopening bits, and in line with your 4th phase strategy, you know, Monday, you know, as you said, did trigger a whole number of new reopenings, the office spaces, personal services like hair salons, the pet groomers, places like beaches, parks, and athletic fields as well. You know, many of these reopenings will surely be met with excitement, but some of these activities, you know, do have pose some risks as well. You know, what do you say to the residents who plan on taking advantage of these rollback restrictions, as well as the companies that are really eager to open up their offices, but of course,
right. Right. So part of the reopening board's analysis was to engage with industries and ask them. We asked them some simple questions like, what is your readiness to reopen? How will you make your workplace safer, incorporating the safety features that we've laid out, meaning, you know, social distancing, hand sanitizer, hand, you know, washing. What happens if a worker gets sick? How to, you know, maintain a sense of order in your lunchroom or in breaks, and like just reorganize your workplaces. So the businesses, we heard from over 75 industries, 112,000 businesses representing over 2 million workers. And we got a lot of different ideas and opinions about that. So readiness, enablers, you know, about transportation and childcare. How important are those enablers for your workforce to get back into the workplace? And so we took a lot of this information in and then started to triage based upon, you know, the public health metrics around what are the front facing part of the business, or is it more of a business that is like a manufacturer, or is it more like a business where you have a lot of interaction with the public? And so to balance that out, as well as with the economic health, you know, in this industry, how many jobs could be returned to service? And then we began to look at other states and seeing how they were approaching the analysis. And we laid out, you know, the phases. And I think the industry protocols were really important because this is completely new to everyone. So we have safety standards, yes, but how how am I as a business going to make my place safer? So we wanted to make it really easy because it's important to have compliance. So we prepare for every industry sector a protocol around how to achieve these standards. And we have a checklist and we have a poster. So basically you employer can look at this checklist and literally go down the list and add those features to your workplace. And you can take the poster and literally put it up in your workplace to demonstrate to your workforce as well as to the public that we have incorporated these features into our operation. It's safer for you to come here and work. It's safer for you to come here and do business with us. We've taken this seriously. And doing that in every industry sector will allow eventually for all industries to be activated, but under a system. So this is a systematic way of reopening, and it's phased in a careful and responsible manner.
And that certainly covers a lot of ground on the employer side, which is wonderful. A few things that really makes reopening even more complex, though, of course, is the arrival of it's summertime and the fact that people have been cooped up for so long so far. What level of confidence do you have right now in the community's ability to continue to social distance, as time continues to go on and on?
Well, on the reopening, as we establish what industry sectors and businesses can reopen, first of all, it's a choice that the employer makes, whether they will reopen. And they will reopen when they feel ready and feel able to incorporate these safety features. And I think that the public, I know I feel this way, there are so many things that maybe once we took for granted, a lot of things. And in this time of closure and now carefully reopening, there's so many things we appreciate much more. And not having it available to us, I think gives everyone incentive to want to do their part. And I just think it's part of who we are, that we all have a role to play in allowing for Massachusetts to reopen. And that means putting your face cover on, using the hand sanitizer, maintaining that social distancing in the workplaces and other places. And if you are going to gather, to pay attention to the gathering order, which is talks about under 10 for indoor or confined spaces. And if you venture outside, to be socially distanced and do that in a careful and smart way. So I think people, as I observe, and I know the governor as well, sees it happening. I've been to the grocery store with my daughter, and people are very sort of respectful of your space. You take a turn heading to get your vegetables, you take your turn getting the milk out of the place, and it just, people have an order. Even taking a walk with my husband, you're on one side and someone's on the other side of the street on the sidewalk and you wave. It was just very friendly, but people are taking it seriously. And I think people understand that that's what we need to do in order to get to the next phase. Phase 2 includes things like retail in-store, restaurants and hotels, more personal services. Those are things that we would all like to enjoy more so if you choose to, but can't activate until we get closer to phase 2 and the public health metrics continue to trend downward. So everyone has a role to play in doing that, especially as the weather gets better. We've added more activities that we feel are safe to be able to do. So you can go boating. If you're a golfer, you can do that now, not only carrying your clubs, but in a single-use cart way. You can go to the beach, but just don't all pile together on the beach close by. You have to set your towel 12 feet from someone else. So people are paying attention to the rules, and they are showing a whole lot of respect for their fellow citizen and their neighbor throughout this process.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen a lot of the same things, and it has been heartening, and it has been encouraging. Of course, the reopening is really, in many ways, just the first step for what is sure to be a long road ahead for all of us. it's also important to distinguish, I think, between reopening and rebuilding, right? Because there's going to be a lot of pieces to pick up when all is said and done. We all imagine. Yeah, how do you begin to address the process of rebuilding the Commonwealth, after it's taken such a hit? Or is that something that honestly you can't even really think about at this point because it's, yeah.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for everyone is the level of uncertainty day to day, right? Because we're so tied to the public health metrics and looking at hospitalizations and the tests that we're doing and looking at those COVID positives and seeing those numbers. We all are familiar with the chart and the graphs that show the downward trend, and we want to see those continue. And I think that people, are trying to balance, we're trying to balance, the public health and the economic health. And you need to balance both. And the part of the recovery is reopening, right? We need to do that in a safe manner. We need to do it successfully. Successfully comes without a pause. So successfully comes with continuing to move forward. It would be very difficult for all of us if we saw a spike or an outbreak that then caused us to have to pull back or pause and not move forward into the next phase. So reopening is got to be what we move through at this time. So getting to phase 2 and working with restaurants, for instance, they have been in a very challenged situation, just being able to offer curbside or delivery and takeout, very, very difficult. We want to get to phase 2 so that they can start to open, outdoor, indoor, and offer more to their patrons. And then, just a short time ago, Chris, we were just filing with the legislature our economic development bill, and we were talking about housing choice, how important it is to build more housing in the Commonwealth, because while Massachusetts is a great state and we're growing and we have such low unemployment, we didn't have enough housing. We still don't. The conversation has changed so much. So we need to reopen, and then we need to think about how to, balance our budgets, help municipalities balance their budgets, get businesses open again, and then see where the gaps are. I think this is a really challenging time for especially a lot of the small businesses that are struggling to just get to reopen and making sure that they can bridge that gap.
Absolutely. One of the surreal things about this pandemic has been how universal it is. Every single person, family, company, really everyone has seen their lives changed. How have you managed to get through this personally? What are some of the things that you've been doing to stay positive?
Oh, I have an amazing family. I'm so blessed. My husband, I have 2 children, Bobby and Judy. My son Bobby's a sophomore in high school, and my daughter's an 8th grader. And I have a dog, Quinn. She's a little Portuguese water dog. She's fabulous. I guess I would say one of the blessings of this is the family time that I've had. The governor and our schedules are quite full. Before the COVID pandemic, we would find ourselves up early and out, and then just really literally I crisscross the state. I get out to a lot of the regions, and I love that. I love visiting our rural communities, suburban communities, our gateway cities in all parts of our state. And we spend a lot of time with people, handshakings and hugs and events and gatherings. It just seems so long ago that we were able to do that. And now I find that I am on a lot of calls, Zoom calls like you, much like this. And many of them I take here at the State House. So my setup is here, but some of them I take it home, and then it gets me home in time to take a walk with my family, or a lot of meal planning, a lot of meal prepping, a lot of meal time. Just started a little patio garden with my daughter. That was something we wanted to do and we just never did. So we're growing vegetables. And I guess my point is that family time, I have enjoyed so much getting together at night and having that dinner. And it's hopefully something that we can see continue as things do reopen and the kids' activities become available to them again. You know, we were a family, much like others who are listening, that, you know, had a lot of games and practices and tournaments and all the, you know, comings and going on top of work, and found ourselves with very little downtime. And now having this kind of at-home time has been really special, and I hope to see that continue.
Well, that sounds very lovely. You know, on the flip side, of course, as you said, things haven't changed. You know, Zoom calls, you know, to say the least. How you know, when it comes to your daily routine, what have you found to be maybe the most challenging so far?
Oh, I would say I think the relentless focus on the one thing. I mean, this effort is everything. It is our job and our responsibility in the executive office, working with our colleagues in the legislature, working with our municipal leaders. It is our 100% focus. There isn't anything else. I have a pile on my desk of the things I was working on before this hit, and it's just there. And it is so secondary to what we need to focus on. So I think that's in a way important, but it's really, it kind of, all the things that we dream and hope for the Commonwealth are just kind of on hold. And that's hard. At the same time, I am inspired by the amazing outpouring of support. You know, people that just get up and go do their jobs because they're essential in this environment. And then the people who just went above and beyond to do more. I think about back to what I was saying before around the personal protective equipment and how hard it was for us to access the equipment for our front line. I mean, that was really troubling, and we struggled with that. Then you had beautiful things happen, like the Kraft family organizing an effort to secure PPE in China on a plane and get it back here. And that was a moment we were able to help the front line. How about taking, you're a business in the Commonwealth and you're manufacturing something, but you're not essential, and how they were able to be creative and innovative, which is a hallmark of our Commonwealth and the strength really behind our economy, and pivot to making ventilator parts, face masks, gowns. I mean, amazing. And it was really fun when the governor and I could take a field trip and go out and see some of these places where the workers were just so proud of being able to be part of the effort to make the face coverings and the things that were essential to helping us fight this virus. So hard times, but these blessings along the way are truly inspirational. And many of these businesses now can return to what they were doing, but will continue in this new line of production, which is also very special.
Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned all those things, and it just reminds me, just listening to that, of, you know, how world class our city really is. You know, from biotech to the companies, you know, to our medical centers and colleges and universities, and you sound very proud. You know, how proud has your administration been of all the great things that we've been doing, including even the vaccine work that's going on over Moderna that everybody's been reading about lately?
Well, I think that's really important. I mean, we know our life science community, where we often talk about it, and our biopharma, bio companies, the whole industry here is pretty amazing. But when you think about what they're doing right here, literally in our backyard, to develop the treatments as well as the vaccination for COVID-19, I mean, I'm rooting for them. I want it to come right from this Commonwealth. And Moderna is definitely making a lot of progress. And every time they share some news, some positive news around that, I think it gives everybody a sense that this is coming, you know, sometime, hopefully this year, maybe toward the end of the year, but that will definitely allow us to get to that that normal as we see it in our future. But yes, we are blessed with that talent, and we want to see it work to its fullest to fight COVID-19. Not only will it help the people of this Commonwealth, but it will help people around the world. And it wouldn't surprise me if that came right from here.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least, that's for sure. You mentioned inspiring acts as well a moment ago, and there certainly have been so many of them that we've all witnessed, from donations and beyond. There's it's been really important given how hard the pandemic has hit Massachusetts. Only New York and New Jersey have more cases, I think. Knowing just how much this pandemic has already impacted our communities, are there any parting words before we get to some viewer questions that you'd like to give residents as we slowly open back up?
Well, I'd like to just say again on the front lines, the people in our hospitals, all of them, every one of them, those in our nursing homes that are caring for the older residents of our Commonwealth who are vulnerable, to their families who haven't been able to see them. What a struggle that has been. I saw on news just in the last day how one of our local businesses in Massachusetts put the husband in a bucket and elevated him to the third floor so we could see his bride. I mean, it's been a really challenging time. I think we're hoping to get to that point where relatives can get together with their nursing home relative. And I just want to say thank you to all the front line. I also want to say thanks to the municipalities. I spend a lot of my time with managers and mayors and select board members and all the people locally that, like state government, are working really hard to deliver services. And they're trying hard to, during this reopening, to do it in a responsible and collaborative way. And I just want to say thank you to them, and as to the citizens, just stay at it. We've all got to just be disciplined and use our common sense and do our part so we can progress safely to the next phases and look forward to a good summer and a successful fall. When I think about kids getting onto college campuses and getting back to school, I certainly want to see that come in a safe and successful manner and not backtrack and see that delayed.
Absolutely. Okay, now I want to shift gears for a second and just tackle some of our excellent viewer questions. We had some people submit them when they were registering to view, and then people have been zinging a few through as we've been talking as well. All right, number one, is there any update that you can give us about the MBTA's plan for reopening?
Okay. So now I commute from central Massachusetts into Boston. I have to say I have enjoyed the ride. There's been literally no traffic. And just a short time ago, right, we were trying to solve congestion, which was not an easy thing to do. Many people working from home. That also has shown us that some of that can continue. I think employers are thinking about that as something that they'll continue for a while. So we think about workers working from home. We think about how to phase in our transit as well. So we don't need full capacity now on the MBTA because not everyone is commuting into Boston. There's a phased-in approach to having workplaces occupied in and around the Boston area. So we're at a reduced schedule. But what we need to do is make it safer. We talked about making workplaces safer. Well, we need to make sure that people that do need to use the public transportation to get to work as we reopen more businesses and they're not able to work from home, that they feel comfortable getting on a train or getting on a bus. So some of the things that we've added to the system is the cleaning regularity and the hand sanitizer and making sure that there's a posting around that so that the consumer knows that this has been sanitized and someone's paying attention to that. We've also incorporated rear entry to the trains and to the buses. So that makes it safer for the worker, for the driver, so that they're not coming into contact with the number of people coming in and out of those trains. And then as the reopenings occur and as more people start to get back physically to work, then we will continue to ramp up the public transportation system, both buses and for trains.
Fantastic. And everybody's going to be looking forward to that. But as you said, we have to do it slowly and safely, which leads right into this next question from the viewers, which is, why does each phase have to last 3 weeks? And why do we need phase reopenings to begin with?
Okay, well, that's a good question. And the reopening board that I talked about earlier, the 17-member board, analyzed a few things. We analyzed what other states were doing. So we took some of the best practices there. Not every place is the same. Some other places were hit earlier than Massachusetts. Some places like Massachusetts were hit harder. We're like the 3rd ranked in the country in terms of the number of cases. And they were able to, think about, how to do this and to phase it in. And I think that they were very responsible about their approach, looking at best practices, looking at other states, and then looking at the public health data, which is the traffic light, right? So we think about how to move forward. If we were to put everyone into position to go back to work day one, it would most likely create a spread of COVID-19 that would then compromise the health system and all the great work that we just did over these past couple of months. So being able to reopen and fight the virus. So you have to reopen and tamp down on the virus spread. Both have to happen. So phasing in allows for a little of this to happen at a time. And the 3 weeks is a point of time that we use to evaluate. So for instance, on May 18th, we opened more construction and manufacturing. And then on May 25th, we opened some personal services and some beaches and 25% offices. And now we have a period of time to look at more people moving around and doing things. What does the public health data look like? So about 2 weeks of that period of time where the virus can incubate and embed in someone, and then a little bit of time to evaluate what's happening. So that's how we get to the 3 weeks. Now, 3 weeks, it could be more if the public health data, has a spike or something we see in some place of the Commonwealth that needs to be addressed. So 3 weeks is what other states have used as well as that measuring criteria to be able to then decide what we phase in next. So it's the data that helps us move forward, not date certain, because we really want to know what's happening with the virus.
Right, it's a guideline and gives you a window of time to sort of reassess and then look at the data. Sure. Yeah, now this is a question that comes from someone in Western Mass. Certain regions of our Commonwealth, like the Cape and the Berkshires, depend on the summer tourist season. How have your plans taken this into account?
Right. So that was an area of analysis for the reopening board. You take the Berkshires and the islands and the Cape, they have definitely a season that we're entering, about 15 weeks, where the businesses in those regions make most of their earnings. And so we have asked both like Berkshire One and the Cape Cod Chamber to present to us the most important elements of their seasonal economy and how we can work with them for a safe opening of some of these things. So you think about restaurants statewide, but certainly in those areas as well. You think about hotels and accommodations, and you think about attractions. And so we formed a hospitality and restaurant work group specifically to analyze these issues. What are the attractions in these seasonal economies that would be important to figure out how to safely reopen and time that with more restaurants and more hotel capacity. So you could literally package a stay away and things to do for individuals and families. So that's what we're gearing up for. So long as the public health data allows us to get there, that would be something that we would be able to hopefully do in a responsible manner.
Great. All right, I think we have time for one, maybe two
Can
more.
I just add to that though? I think this is another way that people, when we do our part here, the message will be, support the Commonwealth, visit locally, shop locally, plan a stay away locally. Oftentimes we're like, we got to go away. We'll go away to the Berkshires, go away to the Cape and Islands, go to Boston and be able to support the Commonwealth's businesses and the activities here. I think that's going to be really important for all of us to think about when those businesses are eligible to open, which potentially can be soon.
Yeah, well, this is definitely going to be, I think, the summer of the day trip. Yeah.
You could maybe get an overnight in there.
Well, that's right.
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. All right, last one we have here from our viewers are the Reopening Advisory Board met with dozens and dozens of groups and associations. And out of all the presentations you looked at, which was the most impactful or the most memorable for you?
Oh boy. I think what was most impactful for me about this was the board itself.
Mm.
I mean, because we had a lot of presentations. So these were all volunteers, exceptional leaders, hospital leader, public health focus, 3 municipal officials. They're running their community and spending time trying to help us pull the plan together to reopen. And you had 11 business owners, business CEOs, business leaders spending time. We had over about 50 hours of Zoom meetings
Oh, wow.
to hear from stakeholders. We had over 75 different industry presentations that ran, weekdays, weekends until we heard from as many as we could. We had over 4,500 submissions to the reopening board. And what amazed me, these individuals, so dedicated, so focused, asked amazing questions, brought their perspectives, and made it a better product because of their level of commitment. And they took it serious. They gave enormously to the process. And we ended up with a plan that was responsible, systematic, and really was unique to meet our needs. So I would say that was sort of the most impactful thing. I also, not only businesses, but we thought about equity, so we listened to the Latino and Black advisory commissions and women-led organizations and the LGBTQ community. So we brought diversity, not only geography, but of different perspectives and backgrounds. So I think for us, the people who were part of the board, but also that it was diverse, it was inclusive, and it really did represent everything about our economy. So you had the big dogs and then you had small businesses. So it was just an amazing experience to see every part of our economy, literally through Zoom, and get a sense of really what makes Massachusetts economy so special.
Yeah, that's a great story. Well, Lieutenant Governor, I know you keep talking on and on, but you're very, very busy, and unfortunately, we'll probably have to stop. We really appreciate the tireless work that you and your administration and your advisory board have been putting into guiding our communities through the pandemic. And we sincerely thank you for being with us today on the first installment of our Power Talk series.
Thank you for hosting the talks. This is definitely a highlight of my day. It was really nice to be with you, Chris, and to those who are listening, thank you for doing your part. Really proud of our Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really the highlight of my day, certainly as well. And that's going to unfortunately have to do it for our discussion today. But we hope all of you will join us at the same time next Wednesday for the second installment of Power Talks, which again has been brought to you by our partners at Ethic, a wealth bank. We sincerely appreciate everybody watching today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.